We are a gold certified Microsoft partner and have been implementing Microsoft CRM and ERP solutions for approximately 20 years. We serve Western Canada with offices in Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver. We sell and implement Dynamics NAV, GP, and Dynamics CRM products, and we leverage Microsoft SharePoint with those products to get the most out of them. What we want to show you today is a vertical solution built in Microsoft Dynamics Nav specifically for the rental industry. Our partner Armada Dynamics is going to give you a preview of the rental solution that is built within Microsoft Dynamics NAV. And we will take questions via the chat function at the bottom of your screen there, and we'll address those questions at the end of the presentation. And if we don't get to everyone, we will respond to your questions via email. So with that, I will turn this over to Moses, and he will give you some background on the product, and then we'll get Ray in here to give you a preview of the functionality itself.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar this morning. Our product is called the EQM Rental Management Solution. It is a Microsoft certified product. It's Microsoft certified in the Dynamics space with NAV, and that means it's completely integrated. So I'm going to show you, along with our partner, some of this about the solution. Let's first talk briefly about the rental industries that we serve. We are in many more rental industries than I could even show you here, because there's a lot of one-offs and very specialized rental companies. But these are kind of the ones that we tend to see a lot of, the party and space and rental, the lifts and heavy equipment. That's kind of where we got cut our teeth and our bread and butter. Then the shoring and scaffolding, medical devices, mobile containers and buildings that people move around and want to be able to track. Excuse me. Trucking, trailers, and we do a lot in the oil and energy sector, which is probably good up in Canada as well. We've had quite a bit of an interest in opportunities there. So to kind of give you a 50,000-foot elevation of the solution, it's based, as I mentioned earlier, completely integrated in the Microsoft Navision financials software. It's not a bolt-on solution. It's completely integrated. So when you're looking at Microsoft Navision, you're looking at us. And when you're looking at us, you're looking at Microsoft Navision. Just a little 50,000-foot snapshot of how the product is structured and arranged. It's arranged into three types of groups. You can do all types of searches and dices on a specific group, a specific object type, or a specific unit. And when we say objects, we're talking assets. So if you have a big lift, for example, you can search by a group of lifts. You can search by the type of lift, if it's a John Deere or a Case, whatever it is. Or you can look at a specific serialized lift and a specific serialized asset. So I just wanted to show you the screen because we've recently integrated with Microsoft Power BI. It's a business intelligence solution. So all these metrics, this dashboard that I'm showing you, I'm doing it as a teaser to show you all that you can get on one screen from this PowerPoint BI that Microsoft has put together. All these data points are coming from our solution. So whether you want to look at utilization, rental revenue, net revenue by equipment, you as an executive, if you're the owner of this business, can take a look at these dashboards. Just wanted to show you what you can do ultimately with this. Again, we're organized into three components of the solution. I'm sorry, excuse me one second. Equipment management, rental management, and service and maintenance. So equipment management, you can obviously manage your asset, but you can also sell it. A lot of people don't understand that with our solution, you know, a lot of times you want to be able to sell an asset. You can do that as well, not just rent it. And then the other one that we tend to hear a lot about that really meets the needs of a customer base is being able to maintain your equipment, your asset, whether an equipment needs to go into a work into a workshop every time, every so many miles, or every so much usage, every so many hours, for example, this product can completely manage that all within one solution. So remember, you're never leaving your financials, you're never leaving Microsoft Navision. It's all there at your fingertips. So how about 4 or 5 more slides, so don't get too scared. Some of the things that we always seem to be asked a lot of, and people keep people up at night when you own a business, the rental business, is, you know, being able to know where your asset is. Where's my equipment right now? You know, what's my most profitable piece of equipment? Should I buy this specific lift? Should I buy that specific lift? Should I buy more of this truck, more of that truck? You know, what's moving in my inventory? And then do you know your cost, your depreciation? And then being able to manage taking something from a quote completely into a contract, then being able to invoice it, being able to receive it. These are the kinds of things that Ray Boone, our Director of Technical Services, is going to demonstrate for you. Again, some of the pains that we see out in the industry by people such as yourselves who own rental companies is availability of an asset or an object, as we call it, lack of information regarding cost. There's a lot of things that people don't have visibility into that our solution gives you, so you can make a better business decision. How profitable is this specific asset? The utilization. Is this asset being used 90% of the time? Maybe I should get more of it. Or is it used 5% of the time? And then a lot more things around certification and maintenance planning. Again, what we solve, the EQM rental management solution, solves the ability to rent unique objects or buy bulk items. Being able to manage advanced availability calendars. Wouldn't it be cool if when someone calls you and says, hey, do you have this this truck or this lift available from this date to this date, that I can go to an availability calendar and look, visually look and see where my assets are and which ones are coming back. We allow you to do that. We give you that tool. And advanced pricing and discount. Having been in the rental industry for as long as we have, we've not seen any two businesses, they can be in the exact same industry, both renting trucks, and they do pricing different. Some do it at the beginning of the month, some at the end of the month, some have stair pricing. One of the things that we really pride ourselves is giving you the flexibility and the depth to be able to set up your pricing the way you work. There's no two businesses alike. Being able to manage multiple rental locations, being able to split revenue, whether you're doing what we call sub-rental, where you may not own the asset, but you go to Joe's rental yard and you get it from him, and then you have to settle up. We manage all that as well. Again, deposit management plan services. These are some of the things. We may not cover them all in a brief demo, but just to show you the depth and breadth of our product. And with that said, we'd like to thank you for today, and I'm going to turn this back over to Ray. Ray Boone is our Director of Technical Service for Armada, and he's now going to demonstrate the product. Thank you.
Say hello all. As Moses said, we're going to do a walkthrough of the product here, and to kind of reinforce some of the items that Moses brought up, I'm going to go over a quick overview on when we talk about objects, types, and groups. So being integrated in Dynamics NAV, we have a role center set up for the rental manager, which includes specific charts for the utilization of our equipment, and that equipment is broken down into groups, which is the highest category. So here we have a group called lifts, and as you can see to the right, I can see for my group I have a fact box over here that shows me my acquisition cost, my book value, if I had rental income for the entire group. Now inside the group, underneath that, I could have two types of lifts which have different type numbers, And again, I have my statistics where I can drill down on each of these types and get an idea as far as my revenue that's coming in by the type in comparison. And this is all information that's being posted to the system as you do your normal job, as you post your invoices and update your contracts and perform your work orders. All of this goes into the background so that later you can pull the data to look specifically at those transactions. And at the final level, we have the objects, which are these usually serialized, unique pieces of equipment. And in this list, we can have our statistics by machine, utilization, the book value, the cost to maintain at a quick drill down. So if we wanted to, look at what makes up the book value, we can see our acquisition and all of our depreciations on this particular piece of equipment, which also we can see right here its status, if it's rented, and if it's rented, who is it rented to, and what's my current contract. We can also, to get back to if we have our availability, we call the object type calendar, and this is used in the case where someone calls in and says they need a particular type of equipment. So using this page, we can look and say, okay, by our type of equipment, I've got my crawler excavator. I have 44 in inventory right now, and I have 9 of them that are reserved. I can drill down on this number, and I have the choice between drilling down, looking at my individual serialized units, or at this point, if I were a person working the counter, I could say, yes, I know that I have 35 that are not reserved and are on the yard, and I could start a contract. We're going to go down and we're going to look at the individual units to get more detail. So here you can see these object numbers indicate that these are unique pieces of equipment of this particular type. This is their current location, so if we have multiple rental locations, we have visibility to see which pieces of equipment are where. I have a shorthand for rental status, which tells me these 2 are actually rented right now. This one's available, but my integrated service solution tells me that they're up for maintenance. So if I have to send them out, I can, but it's a warning that if I have a choice, I probably want to send another piece of equipment out. And then this line says that it is in the yard right now, but it's reserved for on another contract. So this is a way you can visually look down and you can see by location, by status, whether your equipment is busy or you expect it to be busy during the term, because each of these columns are a particular date. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to take a, so here's our objects here, our object list. So if I'm looking at a particular object, I can go straight to its open contract by clicking over here on the fact box. So this is a contract that this piece of equipment is on. Now, so you can tell on this particular contract, we're sending a serialized object or piece of equipment, this pillar lift. We're sending 2 items, and items are things from your inventory that are not serialized. They're typically bulk items. So we're renting 2 of those. And we also have a line for our transportation, which is a resource, which is the things that we sell that really aren't inventory. They could be service charges, pickup charges, delivery charges. You'll also notice that this one is indicated that's a sale item. That means that we're going to charge one time for that. It's not going to be rented over and over. All right. Now we also have, in addition to these types, we can say when we're setting up a new contract that we have just a type. So that's if we know that in the future someone needs 4 pieces of a piece of equipment, we can start the contract for them, and then at the time of delivery we can select which 4 pieces of equipment they're going to get that's actually going to be delivered or shipped out to the job site. You can see on this contract that these lines have all been shipped. That means they've been delivered to the customer. You'll get the entry status, and then the colors will change as we go through the process. We also have, since the contract is kind of the headquarters for everything that's going to be delivered, collected, and billed for this rental agreement, we have separate shipment dates, on rent, off rent, and return dates. So in case you do staging, where you want to send out the equipment before the actual rental period starts, you can have those dates separate. So there's the date that it leaves your inventory, and then there's the date that the customer starts paying for it. And then the same is true on the off rent date and the return date. You could get and be informed by your customer that they're going to stop using a piece of equipment on Friday, but it's not convenient for you to pick it up until Monday, so that you can have a separate off rent date from the return date, so we can separate the time that the customer is being charged for the equipment versus the time that it's the date that it's going to be back on your lot available for another customer. For invoicing, it keeps track of what dates we've invoiced through and the next date that we expect to invoice. And if you do hourly pricing, we can also handle hourly pricing. You'll see on the fact box for this first line that we have indicated that we have prices set up for this. So these are rental prices that are set up for this type of equipment. And it says if you're just anybody, you'll get this rate, this daily rate. And if you're a particular customer, we've negotiated a different date. Now these prices can be set up by customer, by individual object unit, by the type of unit, also by minimum quantities. If you have different prices by different locations, if they rent by for longer periods, and also we can set up minimum rental periods for rental pricing. So it's a way to be able to implement your pricing scheme so that there's less guessing and to get more accurate pricing on your contracts. We also handle stair pricing. Over here. And stair pricing is when your price changes over the length of the agreement. In this very simple one, our stair pricing says that on your first day, this is your rate. After you've had it for a week, because you go up to the weekly rate, and then after you've had it for a month, you go to the monthly rate. And there's lots of different choices and setup that can be done for your stair price list to accommodate your pricing structure without having to do customizations. It's very flexible and very powerful. We also have the base calendar, which you can set your rules up. Do I charge 7 days a week? Do I only charge weekdays and not holidays? So these can be set up and attached to the equipment so that you get your correct number of days that you're invoicing for. Now, as we've noticed that these lines have already been shipped, EQM tries to accommodate different sizes of organizations. So if you have a kind of either a simple counter solution, or you have relatively low volume where it's reported, okay, this large piece of equipment has been delivered, we have a ship all button, which basically says indicate that everything has been delivered. And go to, so our posted deliveries to show that these items have been posted, so that we know that they are now out of stock. They show up that way in our availability, and which particular items went. So, now for more sophisticated shipping arrangements where you may have a warehouse where you pick, or you may just have trucks that you load and you need to load them ahead of time and you need more specific instructions about where the deliveries to be made, we have dispatching. So we can create a pick order for your warehouse staff and then create a shipment order for what's to be loaded on the truck and where it's to be delivered to. Okay. And the same thing goes for collection orders. We could use the return all button for simplified returns back to stock, or we can create a collection order, which is basically a document saying this is what we should be picking up from on site, and it gives us the options. And here's one that I've previously created. But these are the things that have been shipped out on this rental contract. We're doing a collection order, and we're indicating how many of them we're collecting so we can do partial returns. We can also indicate that due to loss or damage, we're going to sell some of these things. So if all 4 of them these colors didn't come back, we could collect 3 and sell 1, and then a sales line will be created on the contract so that it can be invoiced. We can also do a quantity to damage, which says that I'm going to bring it back into inventory, but it needs to be repaired before it can be issued to another customer. So I can, from here, create a damage order, which is, we'll look at the workshop orders a little bit later. And I can indicate that it's in for maintenance so that my availability calendar will show that this is not available until the maintenance has been completed. You also see on the collection order, we have our counters on return, and counters are set up by type of equipment. They can be your hour counter on your engines, they can be mileage, they can be rental hours if you do hourly rental, they can be the number of times something's been used. So and then the counters can drive extra charges in the case of overuse, and it also drives our scheduled maintenance by tracking, okay, this is the posted mileage or the posted hours, and during our scheduled maintenance proposals, we know that it then trips the trigger to say, well, this thing's ready for maintenance now. And we'll take a closer look at that in the service management piece. Okay. So whenever we're ready to invoice, we click the Create Rental Order button, and it uses the data that from our lines and our pricing, and also we have our invoice sequence. So this is another way that you can control how customers are invoiced, whether it's in advance, in arrears, or in a combination of that. And in this case, I have it set up to where this contract, the first month is invoiced in advance, and the following months are invoiced in arrears. And that is done monthly. So there's a lot of different ways that you can control this depending on your rules for invoicing your particular customers. And they're a matter of setup and not customization. Once we are ready to invoice, we hit the Create Rental Orders button. Okay. And you will see that the different fields on the contract lines change color, and we get a status code of order. It's to let someone know that there is an in-process invoice for this particular contract, and we can create rental orders as a batch process or as a one-by-one, and we can combine our invoices by customer, by project, or simply by contract. Okay. Then when I want to look at my rental order, which is going to turn into the invoice that we send to our customer, we can see the things that are being charged for, the rental dates for the things that are being rented, our transportation line is only going to be charged one time, so it doesn't have a rental date, and this item has been set up for rental insurance or damage waiver. So that's automatically added to the invoice if you choose to have that item. And this one indicates how many rental days. If you had different calendars that you had particular free days, then these might be different. And then your daily rate, and then the amount for this period. Okay. If we find a mistake when reviewing this, and we say, oh, hold on, they actually turned that in on the 28th, not the 31st. You can actually delete this order, correct the contract, and then recreate the order. So it is pretty forgiving. Whenever our rental order looks good and we post it, then the contract is updated. The lines that are still out for rent go back to blue. Their entry status shows shipped. The line that was a sale line, something that's not going to be charged repeatedly on this rental contract, the system knows to go ahead and close it out because we're not going to invoice that particular line anymore. And our dates for our invoice 2 and our next invoice date are now advanced, and they're ready for our next billing cycle. Okay, and that is the contract. It's created to be able to handle your billing and invoicing scenarios, and also as a way to get as much data for this particular transaction as possible. So we're going to move to the equipment management. And equipment management, it's the details and definitions for the things that you rent. So I'm going to go to a different contract. Okay, so I have on this contract, it's a compressor, and you'll see that it also has accessories that have gone with it. So if I look over here on my fact box, I can say for this payment, it's of this type. So I'm looking at the type card, and you'll see under components, these are the things that I typically can go with this piece of equipment. So we have different sizes and lengths of air hoses, manifolds, and different sizes of wrench. So whenever I put this on a contract line, this type of equipment, it knows that there's some choices that need to be made about what goes with it. And these components can have what we call the different levels of aspiration, which is, are they optional, are they recommended, or are they required? And along with their quantity, we also have, are they sale items? Are they disposable things that we sell to the customer whenever they go out, but we don't ever expect them to go back in and to come back, and we don't charge for them every month. We just charge for the sale of them. And these is great for directed selling because it helps your staff remember everything, all the accessories that should go out with a piece of equipment, and also to remind people of things that absolutely have to go out with your piece of equipment. The type card also sets up some of the rules that we have about when we rent it. You know, what's its default calendar? Do we do a split between our different locations if one location loans another location of a piece of equipment? And also, are our counters mandatory, that basically whenever they come in or go out, the system stops you and says, I need my counter numbers? And we can also set up a functional test that can be performed whenever something comes back in. We're also, in this case, this object is linked, is an asset, and it is linked to a fixed asset. It will be linked to a fixed asset card whenever we acquire another piece of equipment of this type. And on the type card, we can set up all of our rules for setting up that fixed asset card whenever it comes in. So your accountants, the back office people can set up all of these rules, and then when a piece of equipment is acquired, they're all applied to the new fixed asset card. Okay. All right. And whenever a new unit is brought into inventory, those unit type decisions are all applied to it. So if we look at this particular item, now this is a particular serialized item. You can see it has all of our component choices on it. It also has our status as far as inventory, whether it's been bought, expected, if we've sold it, scrapped it, or lost it. Our rental status, is updated on the card to tell us, you know, if it's available, rented, is it in maintenance, out for service. And then the ownership status is our relationship to this piece of equipment. So we bought this one for rent. We're going to rent it out. Or we may have bought it for sale, or we could have hired it for rent, or hired for our own use, or another way is external, which means that we don't actually even own this piece of equipment, but we may be selling service contracts for it. So we can treat it as ours, and we can set up all the maintenance, and we can do the pickup and delivery of it, even though it's not actually our asset. But we can track everything that we do to it as if it were. Let me go back to that. Now we can also, sorry, get off there. All right. There we go. We have our equipment utilization reports. So I'm going to open one of these up, and I'm going to close out some of these filters. So a utilization report analyzes all of your contract entries for your units, and it will give you your physical utilization, you know, how many days, how many out of possible did it stay on your lot or off your lot, and also your financial utilization. Did we make as much money as we expected to make off of it, or did we have a discounted amount in order for sale prices or such? So in this case, we've got our types of equipment, and it'll calculate the possible days based on those equipment calendars and how many days it's rented, and it'll give you a percentage of your physical rental. And then based off your prices that you've set on that piece of equipment, it'll say this is what we could have made with 100% utilization, and then what we actually took in, and what was the percentage of utilization, and what kind of discount did we get. And we can do this at the group level, the type level, and also the particular pieces of equipment, so that we can see by individual pieces of equipment what their utilization is. So I'm going to move on to our service management section. And let's go to, so we can set up on pieces of equipment, we set up service terms. So, and in this example, I have a certification where I have to send out a piece of equipment every 30 days for a certification. So it will take the dates whenever something comes in. It'll look at those posted dates. I can also set up to run it off my counters for hours or mileage. And I can tell it my rule every 5,000 miles or every 500 hours. And I can also set a margin, so if it's close, it can go ahead and recommend it for maintenance. It doesn't have to necessarily go over it. And I can also indicate how long I expect it to be out of service. I can give it a repair code, so I can track what kind of scheduled maintenance I'm performing, so I can analyze my cost and maybe my time loss on that. And if I do my service internally, I can set up service packs. So I can set up a service pack of filters that says, okay, whenever we change the filters, we're going to change them all, and these are the ones that I expect to take out of inventory to do that, so that you can do your inventory planning for your scheduled maintenance. And during the course of your service process, there is a service proposal that is suggested by the service proposals journal, and it goes through all of your equipment. It goes through their counters and their dates, and that will suggest maintenance items that you can turn into workshop orders. And this is a list of our workshop orders. You can see that under the sell to customer name, we have internal service customer. So this is how we can track work that's done that we do not expect to charge any client for. This is our normal maintenance and repair, but we still want to track all of the costs that go with that, so that it can be posted to the piece of equipment. We can also, if it's a repair that's going to be charged to a customer, we can create the workshop order that becomes a normal sales order that we can post an invoice for to charge them. Going to drill down on this particular workshop order, and we can see the particular object that's being worked on. This is how it posts those costs back, so that where you saw under object statistics service fees, this is where it can link these so that the numbers from your workshop orders are posted to that. We can take things from our own inventory, and we can use our own technicians' labor, time, and cost to post as an internal cost, or what we're going to invoice to our customers. If we have to buy something that's outside our inventory, or we're going to have to send it for an additional service that's outside our own shop, we can use a general ledger expense account to record those expenses. And this is integrated with the availability calendar, so until we have said that we have finished with this workshop order, it is going to remove this piece of equipment from availability, and it'll show up with those red arrows on your availability calendar. And that goes back. And to show the kind of level of integration that we have, I'm going to go back to a particular contract. To show that all of our costs, a little slow there. So on a contract, we can navigate, we can see all the posted documents. So there's the invoice that I created and posted, and I can also go to my statistics for the contract, and it can show me my rental revenue and expenses, my sales, and also any related costs that I had to this particular contract. In this case, for the transportation, I charged $150, but I actually used a third party to deliver it, and the purchase order for that delivery was applied to this contract, so that I can drill down on it, and I can actually look at the document itself to say that, okay, yes, I paid $125 for this vendor to perform that delivery. So that anytime that you're looking at a contract, you're looking at all the costs and the revenue that come from that contract, and anytime that you are working with a particular piece, you're looking at a piece of equipment, I'm also posting all of my service and maintenance charges to that piece of equipment, along with, from the Dynamics NAV fixed asset module, performing its standard depreciation and also integrated to perform the disposals should I sell this piece of equipment. So, okay, well, that is all for my presentation. Do we have any questions?
Actually, thank you, Ray. We are right at our time limit, so thanks for keeping it tight there. But we do have some questions that have come in through chat, but being that we're right at our time limit, we're going to respond to those via email individually. And we will also be following up with each of the attendees individually to see if they need any more information from us. And we'll take it from there. So thank you again, Ray, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. And we will be in touch. Thank you very much.